Hey, welcome to the Woodworking Garage 2021 shop tour. Yes, another shop tour. Hey, I figured, you know what? Everyone seems to be doing them, so why not? Not sure what it is that you want to see about my shop, but hey, I'll show you. So come on inside. My shop space is a 20 by 20 two-car garage. Waving at the neighbors. My shop space is a 20 by 20 two-car garage, and I'm very fortunate to have this space. Now, not all of the space is used for my woodworking. I do share some with the family. So there is a little household storage here, and we're slowly working that into the home so that I can convert this space entirely to woodworking. We're going to start over here on this side where I have most of my wood storage. Now, in the beginning, I had built an A-frame style cart, wood cart, where you have slots in the front for cut-off storage, and then down the center you had storage for long boards. Mostly at the time I was using 1x2s, 1x3s, 1x4s, that sort of thing. And then on the back side is where I had my sheet goods. But what I quickly realized is I ran out of space, and I kept collecting more and more wood, started using different types of wood, and it just was no longer convenient to use. Plus, when I had the wood cart full, it was hard for me to maneuver it around to be able to get to the back wall where I had yet more sheet goods stored. So about 6 months ago, I tore that apart and went ahead and converted to a different type of wood storage. I built these two little carts. They're just over 8 feet, and it allows me to stack up the wood on it. They're a lot lighter and easier to move, so I can just move them out of my way when I need to and still get to my back wall and all of my sheet goods. Now, I still have to kind of shuffle things around depending on what I'm digging for, but you know, it works a lot better than the old system. I do have a little bit of lumber standing up over here. These are boards that are warped and twisted so bad that I'm only going to be using those as scrap and not using them as long sections like this wood down here. Now over here in this corner we have some of our household storage. Filing cabinets and various things up here that we have stored for the home. And of course you can see that we have an additional refrigerator freezer out in the garage. And that's because we like buying food in bulk from Costco and places like that. And so we want the extra storage place for that. Behind me over here I have some cleaning supplies and a ladder and things of that nature, and this door leads to the laundry room, which leads to the kitchen for the main home. And over here I have my toolbox where I have most of my automotive tools and other types of tools I use for the home. And then this rough build storage system right here we built when we first moved into the home, and it was mostly used for our household goods, but a lot of that stuff has slowly moved its way into various storage places inside the home, and I'm converting it for materials and supplies and things for my woodworking. I have most of all my short cutoffs now down here on this first shelf, and then I have drop cloths and moving blankets and that sort of thing up here, along with a couple of buckets and tubs that have various hardware and pieces and things like that in it. Up here in these bins I still have household storage, and then I went ahead and put some clamps and started hanging my clamps up here. I used to hang my clamps underneath the table on this side, but I just ran out of space. I kept collecting clamps, and so I started moving some of them up here along this wall. And down on the floor, which you probably can't see, is some more just household type items behind me down here, some paints, and it's a busy day out in the street. Down here I have some paints and extra gas cans and propane tanks and things like that for when the electricity goes out during hurricane season. It is never this busy on the street out front. It's actually a very quiet neighborhood, and we keep having these cars go by. I don't know. So I apologize for the noise. Right above me here is one of my air cleaners that I use. It's just a 20-inch box fan with an AC filter taped to it. So over in this very busy corner I have again 2 more air cleaners that I have on a rolling cart that I can move around. I've got a cabinet that, no, I didn't build it. It did come from IKEA. My wife purchased it for the home for her crafting room, and then decided it wasn't needed, and so I put it out here in the garage. And so currently this is where I store all my paints and stains and brushes and rags and stir sticks and things of that nature. This is something that needs to be addressed soon because it's not real strong for the weight that we have in there, and I already had one shelf fail and I had to go back in and reinforce the shelves, but I want to change that out and get something a little more permanent, a little more safe. Behind that is a hot water heater for the home, tucked into that little corner there. And right next to it I have the Harbor Freight dust collection unit. Now I don't like the idea that those two pieces are that close together, because the dust collection units, if you don't have one, they do produce dust around them, and so they do get dusty still, even though they are supposed to suck up all the dust. And I don't like that this corner over here stays pretty dusty, and with the hot water heater there, it's just kind of dangerous. So here in a couple of months we're going to be rearranging the garage and doing some things that are different, and my goal is to go ahead and relocate my dust collector to the other side of the room, because right now it's also wedged between not only the hot water heater, but we have the main power box for the home. Hey, if you don't have one of these little extension cords on a reel, man, I tell you what, I picked that up for pretty cheap online, and I use it all the time for those tools that have cords. Really nice to have it mounted right there. Of course, I keep dancing around this dust collection hose. We'll talk about that in a minute. Now, this is kind of a crude build miter station bench that I put together. I was still learning woodworking, didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of in a hurry and just wanted to get the project done, so it's mowed mostly out of just 2x4s and then a 3/4 inch top. It actually works very well. It's just not real pretty to look at. On top over here I have batteries for all my cordless tools and a grinder, and in this area right here I normally keep my drills and my tape measures and odds and end parts. I do have the Craig track stop for miter stations right here. I love this a lot. If it's within your budget, I highly recommend it. And then of course I got my Dewalt Miter Saw positioned right here. Up here in the cabinets, just glues and sponges and vinyl gloves and things of that nature for painting and gluing. And then over here I have all my screws and things, Craig screws, regular screws, some other hardware, fasteners and things over here on this side. And this one right here I have safety equipment. I have safety glasses, my respirators, gloves, and then I have all my tapes and things there, and this is just where I have notebooks and pens, paper, that sort of thing. Now up front here I have my Cutec 8-inch joiner that I recently purchased, and I went ahead and set it on top of a PowerTech tool stand, and then I mounted it onto a little rolling stand so I can easily get it out of the way. Same thing with my Winch bandsaw. Did the same thing with it, built a little roller stand for it to sit on so I can easily reposition my tools and get them out of the way. Over here is where I have my drill press. Initially I didn't think I needed a drill press, then after I went ahead and purchased one I realized how much I was missing one. I really like it. It's just a win. It's one of their cheaper models. I think I paid $150 or something for it. It's worked out great for the shop. I've got it tucked here so it conveniently kind of slides in between these two cabinets. And yet I still have miter station space out front here for when I'm working on chopping up some boards. And then over here I have some additional tools. I have some spare blades here. I have all my most of my drill bits and Forstner bits and things right here convenient to the drill press. I have some other cutting tools up here, carbide scraper and little pull saws and files and things of that nature. And there's various odds and ends up there in the top. And over here I have different measuring tools. Even though I keep my measuring tapes over there, I've got other measuring tools over here. My angle finder and stud finder and rulers and different odds and ends. So over here in the very corner I have my rolling stands on a hook along with my T-square that you see me use quite often. And I usually throw extra paper towels and painter's paper and that sort of thing up here. It's just kind of a jumbled mess now. I need to organize and do something with that. Also, whenever I have to make a spacer for a project, I keep them, I just label them, whatever size spacer it is. and I throw all my spacers up there so I don't have to remake them for each project. Right above me here is a life-saving mini split air conditioner. It gets so stinking hot here in Florida. And so last spring I installed this, did most of the work myself, hired an electrician to put in the outlet on the outside for the outside unit. But this is a Mr. Cool DIY unit. I tell you what, it works fantastic. So when it's 100 degrees outside with, you know, dripping humidity everywhere, this thing keeps it nice and cool inside. And I can easily keep it at 70 degrees inside if I wish. So it's a great system. It's fantastic. It's got a heater in it, so the few days a year that it does kind of cool down a little bit and gets a little cold here, then I still have some heat in the shop. And for this 500 plus square foot garage, it does a very good job. However, one problem I do have is that in the very beginning I didn't make sure the filters were staying clean. I have to clean those filters about once a month. And I didn't do a good job in keeping those clean, and I was still getting some dust in there, and it clogged up my drain hose, which is supposed to come this direction and then out a hole to the outside right down here. And it clogged up, and I started having water dripping down the side of the cabinet and almost ruined my plywood up here on top. So I went ahead and disconnected the hose, and right now I have it draining into a bucket, and this bucket fills up about once a day. So once a day this bucket is filled up, and I just slip it around the corner there, empty it, and stick it back. And at some point I'm actually going to get this fixed so it drains properly again. But for now, that's what I have. And occasionally in my videos, if you listen carefully, when I'm over in this side of the room, you can hear the dripping. Yep. Right behind that is a 10,000 watt generator for when the lights do go out. It'll power a good portion of the things we have in our home. Power washer, because we have a mold problem here. Always getting mold growth on the sidewalk and edge, sides of the house, patio, that sort of thing. So power washer to clean all that off for the home. Here's a great little stool that my daughter purchased for me for Christmas a few years ago. Man, what a lifesaver that is. As you get older, my knees are bad and I don't like squatting down so much, so I use that stool and I can wheel around my projects here in the open space and as I work on them. This was a failed project, and I just turned it into a stand for a work surface. So oftentimes when I'm doing glue ups and things, I just pull this out and I set my boards up across it and use that. Or if I need to move a large project off my workbench, I'll stick this out in the middle of the floor and set it on it, and it works great. And then over there, of course, just trash can and some table saw jigs and some parts and pieces, and nothing special to talk about. For dust collection in this shop, I started out with a little Win brand. I think it was like a 3-gallon bag, a little unit that I had mounted on the wall here with one hose coming off of it that I use for everything. And then I caught a sale at Harbor Freight and picked up this 70-gallon Harbor Freight 2-horsepower dust collector for $179. So that gives me 2 4-inch hoses coming off of it. And so I have one running up and over with a 2.5-inch hose dropping down on my miter station, and it splits right there. So I have another 2.5 hose which comes down here, which is my main line that I use for all my small power tools. I use it for all my cleanup. It's got a long enough hose on it that I can drag it around the shop. I clean the floors with it, and just absolutely love it. It just works great. The other 4-inch hose comes up over and down and goes through the center of my workbench, and it connects to the back side of my Dewalt Miter Saw. It does split right about here and breaks off into 2 2.5-inch hoses. So one 2.5-inch hose goes to the back of the table saw, and one comes out the side, and I use this stiff style PVC hose that runs to the port on the top side up here. I like this nice stiff hose because it still allows me to slide sheet goods and things underneath it when I'm cutting. Now I really like this workbench. It's the center of everything that I do. It's used as an outfeed table when I'm ripping boards or cutting up plywood. I use it as my sanding table. I use it as my assembly table. When I first made this a couple of years ago, it was made for a Cobalt table saw. And when I upgraded to my Dewalt table saw, it didn't fit. It didn't line up perfectly. So I ended up throwing a couple of scrap pieces of wood under my saw to raise it a little higher than the table surface. But it works fine. The back side back here is still used for some clamps. The center was originally designed for me to store wood underneath, but once I rearranged some of my wood storage, that came out. Now I mostly just have my 6-inch hose running through the center, plus some long lengths of dowels and a few light items like that. This table was never completed. It was going to be face framed, and I was going to finish some shelving and do some things, and just never finished it. Started moving on to other projects. The first drawer here is the most important drawer in the shop because it has all the things that I need continuously, and I have them real close right here to the bench. It's everything from bench cookies to a hammer to a pair of pliers to my Craig drill driver bits and drill bits and things that I'm just constantly using. And then I have all my sandpapers and sanding sponges and things here. The bottom 2 drawers just have some miscellaneous. I like keeping all my pocket hole jigs real close, so I have my pocket hole jigs right here. I just pull them out, I grab a clamp, and I can clamp it right here, and I'm ready to go. All my clamps and things for that I keep right here beside it. Down below is my sander and my router, which again, 2 tools I use a lot of. Over there is a circular saw and brad nailer and jigsaw, which I never use the jigsaw. And then I have my paint sprayer. If you've seen my video about how I set up a paint booth here in the garage, I tape everything off. I put up plastic sheeting around the room, and I can just grab the hose and set up my paint sprayer right here and go to town spraying. Now, a couple other things to show you here. A couple of months ago, I installed this winch that goes right over the top of my workbench there. It's just a cheap winch that I bought online. Has about a 400-pound capacity, which is all I need. I use that when I have heavier projects and that I want to move to and from my table, my workbench, because when you work in a shop by yourself, hey, for those of us that are starting to get a little older, you want to protect yourself and not get injured. Just love it. Don't use it a lot, but when I do, man, it's nice to have. And swinging on around, I want to show you over here. Here in Florida, things are a little bit different. Got the air conditioning mounted high up in the ceiling right there. It's a beast of a monster. It gets kind of noisy sometimes, but for the most part, the noise canceling microphones and audio equipment that I have, it kind of drowns it out, and so you don't pick it up too much unless I'm standing right underneath it. Then you'll hear that thing running sometimes. And of course, here in Florida, it runs all the time. And then over here on this side, I just want to show you that I do have storage right above the garage door. It's only about 10 inches of space up there, but I built that little rack, and I have my track saw jig stored up there. And then I also have all my 4-way pressure clamps that I've built and that I use for all my tabletop glue ups. And some of those are pretty long, so I have all those stored up there out of the way. For lighting in this shop, I just have these LED strip lights that you can daisy chain together. I picked them up at the home center. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess I have 5 of those in the shop here, and they actually light up the area quite well. Also, the garage door opener has a really strong lighting system that really lights up the room, so I keep that on when I'm in the shop, and that really helps. And I do keep the door open sometimes when the weather is nice, but it's getting a little warm for the day and starting to get a little muggy, so we're going to be closing that door here soon. So hey, this is me. This is where I hang out about 6 days out of the week. When I'm not spending time with the family, I like to be in the garage tinkering and building something or learning something new. And I'm very fortunate to have such a space as this and the tools that I have acquired over the last couple of years. When I first started out, it was a circular saw, a drill, and not much more than that. But through learning how to build projects for myself, I started making a few things to sell. I started making just a little bit of money, and I started buying more tools, and that's what I've been able to do. I keep building things, selling things, buying more tools, and it's been a wonderful journey, and I hope you are inspired to take this journey. If you're new, if you've been doing it a while, great. I hope you're able to learn some things from me here in this shop. If you're not a subscriber here, please subscribe. I try to put out videos 2 to 3 times a week. Everything from videos from how to build things to how to make money and honest tool reviews. So if those sorts of things interest you, then please hit that subscribe button, join me here in the garage, and let's build things together. If you like this video, please give me that thumbs up. When you give me a thumb up, it tells YouTube that you like this video. They're going to in turn share more videos with you, and they take my video and share it to other people they think will enjoy it too. I'm going to go ahead and throw up some links right here to some recent videos that you might enjoy. So I hope you click on those links and go over there and see what else I've got in store for you. And if you do, I'll just go ahead and see you over there.